Can you imagine a time when a surgeon believed that the reason behind criminal behavior in men was a health issue? And more specifically, the issue was with their testicles. Sounds nuts, doesn't it? In an era of wild scientific speculation, the curious case of Dr. Leo Stanley and his unconventional experiments comes to mind. Born in Buena Vista, United States, Leo Stanley was not your average doctor by any means. After an initial run at Stanford, he found his calling at Cooper Medical College in San Francisco. His path took a strange turn when he was hired as the chief surgeon at San Quentin State Prison. He was hired despite having no surgical experience. That's right, no surgical experience at all. None. And that's peanuts compared to rest of Leo Stanley's story. Stanley believed and aimed to prove that endocrine infections or injuries were the causes of a human's willingness to commit crimes. He found this especially true in the male population. Essentially, he proposed that damaged testicles, in their quest for self-repair, would lead their bearers into the world of criminal behavior. Oh, but the good doctor had a solution for that. Sterilizations. And later, testicle removal and replacement. Yes, you heard that right. Stanley saw the prison as the ideal environment to carry out these unusual procedures. He also claimed that these procedures could halt aging and make old men young and virile again. You might be wondering, how did Stanley manage to sterilize prisoners, harvest testicles, and all the stuff that goes along with it? I mean, there must have been a law or guidelines or something. Not quite. Actually, the Californian law at the time permitted forced sterilization of prisoners, a loophole Stanley exploited to the fullest. He argued that depriving individuals of their right to procreate would diminish their readiness to commit crime. This led to San Quentin becoming the leading prison in terms of the number of inmates sterilized. Stanley's experiments didn't stop at sterilization, however. More about that later. Dr. Leo Stanley's tenure at San Quentin State Prison was marked by a series of radical and controversial medical procedures. Among his bizarre experiments was thyroid removal. He claimed that hardcore criminals needed their thyroids removed or they may continue committing their heinous crimes when eventually released from prison. And for criminals who weren't so hardcore, they needed to have an amount of ground testicles placed in their abdomen. This would supposedly help to keep their own testicles from malfunctioning, hence keeping them from a life of crime. Executed criminals would have their testicles harvested right after their death. They would then be transplanted to living inmates, usually older inmates or those preparing for freedom. Some of these men would have completely new testes, and some multiple testicles. Occasionally, Stanley needed new testicles, but there weren't any soon-to-be executed prisoners. No problem for him, though. He would simply take testicles from animals, especially from sheep, boar, and goats. He also tried plastic surgeries on inmates that were finishing up their terms. He did that so they would appear different and get jobs like everyone else. That way, they could be contributing members of society. Along with their new testes, they would have new faces. Wow, what a guy! And to top it off, his experiments were supported, perhaps unofficially, by the government. In fact, Stanley received compliments for being one of the best surgical researchers in all of the United States public institutions. Like I said, this story is nuts, and Leo Stanley was an equally interesting and terrifying character. So what do you think? Would you like a more in-depth dive into this bizarre surgeon? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching.